Your daughter, she's alive. Sophia lied. Loki the parrot's sharp cry echoed through the mansion, striking Augusto like a lightning bolt. His eyes fixed on the dusty portrait of Clara, the girl he believed he had lost forever. He felt the ground tremble beneath his feet, his breath caught in his throat. 7 years of mourning and a lifetime of lies collapsed before him. As the bird, his only confidant, repeated the phrase tirelessly, and what he discovered next would forever change his life and that of his little daughter. Augusto staggered, his trembling hands seeking support on the heavy portrait frame. Clara's angelic face, with her golden curls and curious eyes, seemed to watch him, now with a new layer of pain and hope. Loki, what did you say? Repeat. His voice was a hoarse whisper, almost inaudible, but the parrot, as if understanding the urgency, repeated, this time with chilling clarity. Sophia lied. Clara is alive. Grandma's house. She's there. A chill ran down Augusto's spine. Grandma's house? Sophia's mother, a reclusive woman who lived on a secluded property, had never been mentioned in relation to Clara. Augusto's mind reeled, trying to reconcile the image of his dead daughter with the possibility of her being alive, kept secret by Sophia. The grief that had consumed him for 7 years now mingled with a growing fury, a dormant volcano threatening to erupt. He knelt before Loki's cage, his tear-filled eyes fixed on the birds. Loki, my friend, are you sure? How do you know? The parrot flapped its wings, as if impatient. Sophia took her. She said Clara was going to travel, but she didn't travel. Grandma, she took care of her. The words were fragmented, but the message was crystal clear. Sophia had staged the trip, the accident, everything. The cruelty of the lie was so overwhelming that Augusto felt nauseous, a deep malaise. The woman he loved, to whom he had entrusted his life and heart, was capable of such perfidy? Sophia's image, always so sweet and understanding in his grief, now distorted in his mind, revealing a calculating coldness. At that instant, the drawing-room door opened softly, and Sophia entered, a gentle smile on her lips. Her eyes swept the room, stopping at Augusto, kneeling before the cage, and then at Loki, who, strangely, fell silent. Augusto, darling. What happened? I heard a noise. Is Loki up to his tricks again? Her voice was soft, concerned, the personification of a devoted wife. Augusto rose slowly, his body rigid, his gaze fixed on Sophia. He tried to decipher every line of her face, every nuance of her expression, searching for a sign, a crack in the facade. But Sophia was an accomplished actress. It's nothing, Sophia, he managed to say, his voice choked. Just, Loki was a bit agitated. He reminded me of Clara. The mention of his daughter's name brought a slight tremor to Sophia's lips, a gesture that Augusto, in his grief blindness, had always interpreted as shared sorrow. Now it seemed like an act. Sophia approached, placing a delicate hand on Augusto's arm. Ah, my love, I know how much you miss her, but we need to move on, don't we? She's in a better place. Her words, once a comfort, now sounded like poison. Augusto subtly recoiled, Sophia's hand losing contact. The connection he thought he had with her shattered into 1,000 pieces. He needed answers, he needed the truth, and he knew Loki was the key. The journey to unravel Sophia's web of lies had only just begun, and with each passing second, the hope of finding Clara again ignited a more intense flame in his tormented heart. Augusto watched Sophia walk away, her image dissolving into the gloom of the corridor. The forced sweetness in her smile and the falsity in her eyes, once invisible, were now glaring, tearing at his soul. Her hand, which he had so cherished, seemed to have left a cold mark. He felt like a castaway, aware that his refuge was a treacherous swamp. Fury simmered but contained, mixed with the despair of the cruel lie. He needed to be cautious. Every move and word had to be calculated. Sophia was cunning, and he couldn't give her any hint of his cruel charade. He turned to Loki, who watched him with bright eyes. The parrot seemed to understand the gravity, maintaining an unusual silence. Augusto approached the cage, lowering himself to the bird's level. "Loki, my friend," he whispered, his voice emotional. "You need to help me. I need more details. Where is Clara? How is she?" Loki tilted his head and with clarity repeated, "Grandma, big house, rose garden. Clara plays there." The words were both a balm and a stab. Clara was playing. Alive? The image of his daughter, whom he had imagined beneath the earth, now came to life in a rose garden, bringing a mix of relief and dread. Donna Helena, Sophia's grandmother, was an almost mythical figure rarely mentioned, living in isolation. Augusto had never imagined her involvement. Augusto's mind raced. He needed to verify. But how? Sophia monitored his every move, his life. Every phone call, every outing was observed by her, under the pretext of care. He remembered how she always discouraged him from visiting places of bad memories, including the family's old country house, where Clara loved to spend summers. Now everything made sense, a macabre puzzle falling into place. That night, Augusto barely slept. The image of Clara playing in a rose garden alternated with Sophia's smiling face, now a mask of deceit. He felt the weight of betrayal crushing him, a pain added to his grief, but the hope for Clara was stronger. At dawn, Augusto went down for breakfast. Sophia was already at the table, impeccable with her welcoming smile. "Good morning, my love. Did you sleep well? You seemed a bit down yesterday." Her voice was like velvet, but Augusto felt a shiver. "Yes, dear, just thoughts. You know how it is." He tried to keep his voice steady, his gaze neutral. Sophia watched him as he drank his coffee. "Augusto, I was thinking, perhaps it would be good for you to travel a bit, a change of scenery. How about that business trip you postponed? I could go with you, of course." The proposal, once a gesture of affection, now sounded like an attempt to distance him and control his environment. "It's a good idea, Sophia. I'll think about it," he replied, with a lump in his throat. He needed a pretext to leave the mansion without suspicion, and the business trip was the perfect opportunity. But he wouldn't go with her. He would go alone, to the place Loki had indicated, to seek the truth and, God willing, his daughter. The journey would be long and dangerous, but Augusto was determined. With each heartbeat, he felt the promise of a reunion, the chance to reclaim the joy Sophia had stolen. Augusto needed to act fast. The business trip, suggested by Sophia, was the perfect smokescreen. He nodded, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Yes, dear, that's an excellent idea. I'll ask my secretary to organize everything. I need a few days to close that deal in Valparaiso. It's a trip that requires total concentration, so perhaps it's better if I go alone." He watched Sophia. She frowned, a shadow of disappointment, but quickly composed herself. "Alone, my love. But I love traveling with you." Her voice was mellifluous, and Augusto felt the control. "I know, Sophia, but this is a delicate business. I need total focus. I promise that next time we'll take a leisure trip together, just the two of us." He squeezed her hand. Sophia smiled, accepting the explanation. "All right, my dear, just be careful and call me whenever you can." The concern seemed genuine, but Augusto knew it was pure pretense. Later, when Sophia left, Augusto rushed to the drawing room where Loki awaited him. "Loki, my friend, I need your help," he whispered, his eyes fixed on the bird. "Grandma's house, the address or how to get there." The parrot tilted its head. 'Old road, after the bridge. Tall pines, iron gate. The words were a fragmented map, but Augusto memorized them. And Clara, is she well, happy? Loki flapped its wings, a sparkle in its eyes. Clara laughs, plays with doll, grandma makes cake. A sigh of relief escaped Augusto's lips. His daughter was alive and well. That was the most important thing. With Loki's clues, Augusto began his discreet investigation. He knew he couldn't use the mansion's computer or the main phone. He went to the library, a room Sophia rarely frequented, and searched old atlases and road guides. He found a detailed map of the surroundings, with small rural roads marked. His fingers traced the lines, looking for the old road after a bridge. It took hours, but he finally found a path that matched Loki's description, leading to an isolated and mysterious area. Sophia's grandmother's house, Donna Helena, wasn't explicitly marked, but the region corresponded to the Parrot's indications. In the days that followed, Augusto maintained the facade of a businessman concerned about the trip. Sophia, in turn, intensified her displays of affection, packing his bags, reminding him of details, and even suggesting he take one of the security guards, just in case. "Don't worry, Sophia," he reassured her with a forced smile. "It's just a routine business trip. I don't need extra security. I want to take the opportunity to think a bit, you know. The fresh air." He felt the net tightening, but he was determined not to yield to manipulation. Each time she mentioned security, he felt a chill, knowing it was an attempt to monitor him. The departure date approached. Augusto organized his documents, packed a small bag with essentials, and, in secret, hid a detailed map of the region in his jacket. With each step, anxiety and hope mingled in his chest. The promise of reuniting with Clara was the fuel that propelled him, the strength that helped him maintain the charade. He knew he was about to embark on the most important journey of his life, a journey that would uncover the truth and, if all went well, bring his daughter back. The mansion, once his home, now seemed like a prison, and Clara's freedom was the only path to his own. He was ready to face whatever came, no matter the cost. The morning of departure arrived with a timid, almost shy sun, barely able to penetrate the mansion's heavy curtains. Augusto rose before dawn, his heart beating a frantic rhythm of anxiety and hope. The small bag, discreetly prepared, was in the car, ready for the escape disguised as a business trip. He descended the stairs with calculated silence, feeling with each step the weight of the charade he needed to maintain. Sophia was already in the dining room, seated at the table with a steaming cup of tea and a smile that, to Augusto, was now a cold mask. "Good morning, my love. Leaving already? I wanted to have prepared a special breakfast for you," she said, her voice soft, but with a touch of possessiveness. Augusto forced a smile, trying to appear the hurried and somewhat melancholic businessman she expected. "Don't worry, dear. I need to hit the road early to avoid traffic. The deal in Valparaiso can't wait." He leaned in to kiss her forehead, a gesture that was once affectionate, now pure theater. He felt a shiver as he touched her skin, the sensation of deceit gnawing at him. In the car, as he drove away from the mansion, Augusto looked back one last time. The imposing building, which for years had been his safe haven, now represented his daughter's prison and the web of lies that had entangled him. A deep sigh escaped his lips. Clara's freedom was his only compass. He started the engine and drove off, Loki's map etched in his mind. The journey was long. The urban landscape gave way to rural roads, then to dirt tracks. The car rattled, raising dust. But Augusto barely felt the discomfort. His eyes swept the landscape, searching for the landmarks Loki had described. The old road, the bridge, the tall pines. Each kilometer traveled was a mix of relief and dread. What if Loki was wrong? What if it was all just a bird's imagination? Doubt was a slow poison, but the image of Clara, alive and playing, was the antidote. Finally, After hours of travel, Augusto spotted the bridge, old wooden creaking under the car's weight. On the other side, a narrower road, flanked by imposing pines that stood like sentinels. Augusto's heart pounded. He was on the right track. The tension in his shoulders eased a little, replaced by a growing adrenaline. He drove slower, his eyes fixed on the dense vegetation. Then he saw it. Hidden among the trees, a rusty iron gate almost swallowed by ivy. Behind it, a long dirt driveway that led to a large house of old architecture with a red-tiled roof and stone walls. It was Grandma's house. Augusto stopped the car at a safe distance, turning off the engine. The silence was almost palpable, broken only by the birdsong and the beating of his own heart. He got out of the car, feeling the fresh forest air on his face. He approached the gate cautiously, peering through the bars. The garden was vast, a bit wild, but with rose beds blooming in vibrant colors. And then he saw it, a small rag doll forgotten on the lawn, near an improvised swing on a sturdy tree. His eyes welled up. Loki hadn't lied. Clara was there. He felt a lump in his throat, an overwhelming mix of pain and gratitude. The doll was a sign, a promise. He knew he needed to be patient, to plan his next step carefully. The truth was within his grasp, and he would not fail. Augusto felt his heart clench in his chest, a pain as sharp as the joy that flooded him. The small rag doll there, abandoned on the lawn, was irrefutable proof. Clara was alive. Warm tears streamed down his face, washing away 7 years of mourning and a darkness that seemed eternal. That simple object unraveled the lie that had imprisoned him. He brought his hand to his mouth, trying to stifle a sob. Sophia's mansion, with its cold walls and web of deceit, seemed like a distant nightmare. There in that wild garden, yet full of life and colors, was his truth, hope reborn. With tear-filled eyes, Augusto observed the house. It was an old but well-maintained building with an aura of peace and coziness that contrasted brutally with the cold opulence of his own home. The windows were open, and he could hear the soft clinking of dishes, perhaps Donna Helena preparing lunch. The garden, despite its somewhat unkempt appearance, was a paradise for a child, with rose beds climbing the walls and an improvised swing inviting play. He imagined Clara laughing, running around, her golden curls bouncing. A soft sound, a childish melody, reached his ears, dispelling any doubt. It was a voice, small and sweet, singing a lullaby. Augusto's heart leaped. It was Clara. He quickly crouched behind a dense jasmine bush, his breath held, trying to see. For an instant, a tiny shadow passed by one of the downstairs windows, a quick but unmistakable glimpse. It was her, his daughter. The emotion was so intense that he felt his knees buckle, and Loki's voice echoed in his mind. Clara laughs, plays with doll, Grandma makes cake. Everything was true. The overwhelming joy, however, was accompanied by extreme caution. How to approach Donna Helena? Was she a willing accomplice of Sophia, part of the cruel charade, or an innocent guardian, perhaps even a victim of her daughter's manipulation? Augusto needed answers, but he couldn't put Clara at risk, nor scare the elderly woman. The delicacy of the situation demanded a meticulous plan. He couldn't simply invade the property, risking causing trauma to his daughter or alerting Sophia, who would certainly send henchmen or attempt some maneuver. Augusto decided that impulsiveness would be his worst enemy. He needed time to observe, to understand the house's routine, the dynamic between Clara and her grandmother. He retreated slowly, moving away from the gate with the same discretion with which he had arrived, returning to the car. He couldn't be seen. The best strategy would be to wait until nightfall, or perhaps the next day, to find a discreet and safe way to approach. He took out his cell phone, resisting the temptation to call someone, to share the overwhelming news. No one could know yet. Only he and Loki held this secret. Sitting in the car, hidden by the dense vegetation that lined the road, Augusto felt the weight of 7 years of pain transform into an unshakable force. The image of Clara, even if just a fleeting glimpse, was the promise of a future, the chance to rebuild everything Sophia had destroyed. He knew the path ahead would be arduous, full of challenges and uncertainties, but the determination in his eyes was stronger than any obstacle. He would rescue his daughter, bring justice for Sophia's betrayal, and finally find the peace he so longed for. The agonizing wait would be necessary. Augusto remained in the car, his eyes fixed on the house, his heart still pounding with overwhelming emotions. The doll on the lawn and Clara's fleeting image danced in his mind, a vivid reminder of the truth he sought. The pain of 7 years of mourning had transformed into a silent but powerful force. He needed to be the rock, the pillar that would rescue his daughter, and perhaps Donna Helena herself. The sun began to set, painting the sky with orange and purple hues, and the shadows lengthened, making the house even more mysterious. Augusto knew that the night would bring few opportunities for detailed observation, but he decided to wait. Hunger and fatigue began to set in, but he ignored them. Every minute was precious. He observed the house, noticing the lights that came on, one by one, and Donna Helena's silhouette occasionally passing by the windows. She seemed small, fragile, and her movements were slow, almost dragging. At one point, Donna Helena appeared on the porch, watering some potted plants. Her face, even from a distance, seemed marked by sadness. Her shoulders stooped as if carrying an invisible burden. She looked towards the forest, in the direction where Augusto was hidden, and a deep sigh escaped her lips. There was no anger in her gaze, only a profound melancholy that pierced Augusto's heart. He noticed something strange. Donna Helena didn't seem like a satisfied accomplice. There was a resignation in her gestures, an absence of joy that contrasted with the scene of a home sheltering a child. She seemed like a prisoner in her own house, or perhaps a reluctant guardian. The idea that Donna Helena might also be a victim of Sophia's manipulation, forced to participate in the charade, ignited a new flame of indignation in Augusto. Sophia had not only stolen his daughter, but also imprisoned her own mother in a web of lies. Suddenly, a sound. A car approached along the dirt road, raising a cloud of dust. Augusto shrank back even further, his heart pounding. Who could it be? A neighbor or someone sent by Sophia? The vehicle, a black SUV, stopped in front of the iron gate. A corpulent man with a severe face and cold gaze got out. He carried a grocery bag, but his posture was not that of an ordinary deliveryman. He looked like a guard, a henchman. Donna Helena, who was still on the porch, visibly recoiled at the sight of him, her expression of sadness transforming into pure dread. She quickly retreated inside the house, closing the door with a muffled click. The man opened the gate with a key, entered, and headed towards the house. Augusto felt a chill. This was no routine visit. The man's presence and Donna Helena's evident fear were an unexpected turning point. Sophia's grandmother was not an accomplice, but a hostage, forced to keep Clara captive. Sophia's cruelty knew no bounds. The situation was far more serious than he had imagined. It wasn't just a reunion. It was a rescue. He needed to act, but now with even greater urgency and strategy. The safety of Clara and Donna Helena depended on his every next step. Augusto clenched his fists, determination etched on his face. He would not fail. Augusto clenched his fists, determination etched on his face. He would not fail. The image of Donna Helena, shrinking in dread, was a punch to the gut, more painful than any lie Sophia could have told. His wife's cruelty was not limited to him and Clara. It extended to her own mother, transforming her into a forced guardian, a prisoner in her own home. Rage bubbled in his chest, a cold and calculated fury that superseded despair. He needed to rescue not only his daughter, but also the fragile elderly woman who, out of love or coercion, kept the secret. The black SUV remained parked in the driveway. Augusto watched, motionless, as night swallowed the last vestiges of light. The house windows lit up, revealing the silhouette of the corpulent man passing by one of them, like a menacing spectre. His presence was a physical barrier and a constant threat. Augusto knew that any false move could put Clara and Donna Helena in even greater danger. Impulsiveness now was a luxury he couldn't afford. He leaned back in the car seat, his muscles tense, his eyes fixed on the house. Hunger and fatigue were insignificant compared to the magnitude of the situation. His mind worked at a frantic pace, analyzing every detail, every shadow. How could he approach? How could he talk to Donna Helena without being noticed by the henchmen? Sophia's mansion, with its security guards and cameras, seemed like an impregnable fortress, but this house, isolated and without apparent surveillance, was even more dangerous, for the threat was within, veiled. Loki, the little feathered hero, echoed in his mind. Clara laughs, plays with doll, Grandma makes cake. Day. That parrot, which he once considered merely a pet, was the compass of his soul, the only link to the truth. The certainty that Clara was there, alive, was the fuel that kept him alert, the promise of a future he would fight to reclaim. Hours passed. The night's silence was broken only by the croaking of frogs and the rustling of leaves. Augusto saw a light come on upstairs, then go out. A small light in the kitchen remained on longer, before plunging the house into almost total darkness. The black SUV remained motionless. The henchman was there, sleeping or watching. Augusto couldn't risk it. He needed a strategy that didn't involve direct confrontation, something that would protect Donna Helena and Clara above all else. His eyes swept the landscape, looking for a blind spot. A discreet entrance. There was a barbed wire fence, almost hidden by dense vegetation, that delimited the property at the back. It could be a way to approach without using the main gate. The decision was made. He would wait until dawn, when the faint light would offer some visibility, but the darkness of early morning would still cover his movements. He would approach from the back, trying to find a window or a door that could provide access to the house, or at least a discreet conversation with Donna Helena. With each heartbeat, the urgency grew. He could not fail. The rescue of his family was in his hands, and he was ready to face whatever came. Dawn arrived timid and cold, tinging the sky a pale grey. Augusto, exhausted but with his mind clearer than ever, got out of the car. The damp forest air raised goosebumps on his skin, but he ignored the discomfort. Moving with a hunter's caution, he circled the property, following the barbed wire fence that Loki had, in a way, indicated. Dry branches cracked under his feet, and he stopped at every sound, his senses sharpened, fearing to alert the henchmen. The fence was rusty and partially broken in some places, swallowed by vegetation. Carefully, Augusto opened a passage, slipping into the property. The backyard was even wilder, with tall bushes and old trees that offered excellent cover. He approached the house, his eyes sweeping the downstairs windows. One of them, in the kitchen, was ajar, revealing a sliver of light. It was his chance. Approaching the window, Augusto peered in. Donna Helena had her back to him, preparing coffee, her movements slow and hesitant. The faint morning light revealed the deep, dark circles under her eyes and the expression of weariness that marked her face. She seemed a shadow of herself. Augusto tapped softly on the glass, just enough to get her attention. Donna Helena turned abruptly, fright evident in her wide eyes. Seeing him, her hand flew to her mouth, stifling a scream, and her eyes filled with tears. There was no anger, only relief mixed with deep fear. Augusto gestured for her to be quiet and whispered, "Donna Helena, it's Augusto. I've come for Clara and for you." The elderly woman nodded, tears streaming freely, and with a trembling gesture indicated the back door. She was indeed a hostage. The truth was even more painful, but the hope of an imminent rescue filled Augusto's heart. Donna Helena, with trembling hands, unlocked the back door, the soft creak of the wood echoing in the morning quiet. Augusto slipped inside, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The smell of fresh coffee and homemade bread filled the air, a bittersweet contrast to the tension that hung over them. Donna Helena closed the door with the same care, her tear-filled eyes fixed on his. "Augusto, I knew you would come," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion and fear. "Sophia. She forced me. She said if I didn't, Clara would never see the light of day again." The elderly woman's words, laden with despair, confirmed Augusto's worst suspicions. He reached out, holding her hands firmly. "Don't worry, Donna Helena, it's over. We're getting you out of here." The elderly woman squeezed his hands, a mix of relief and dread in her gaze. "He's sleeping in the guest room downstairs," she indicated with her head, her voice barely audible. "He's a monster. Sophia sent him to watch me." Augusto nodded, his anger at Sophia burning in his chest, but he controlled it, transforming it into focus and determination. The priority was the safety of Clara and Donna Helena, and any false step could be fatal. He needed to be the calm in the storm. "Where is Clara?" he asked, his voice hoarse with anticipation. Donna Helena pointed to a narrow staircase leading upstairs. "In her room. She's still sleeping. I put her to bed later today, so she wouldn't be alone with him." A flash of hope and gratitude went through Augusto. The grandmother, despite being a hostage, had done her best to protect her granddaughter, a small light of altruism amidst the darkness of manipulation. He ascended the wooden steps with the lightness of a cat, each step calculated not to produce the slightest sound. The creak of the wood, an almost inaudible whisper. Donna Helena followed him, her breathing heavy but determined, her eyes fixed on his back as if fate itself depended on that movement. Reaching the top of the stairs, Augusto saw a door ajar. A soft light filtered through it, coming from a small window overlooking the garden. He approached, his heart racing, and peered in. There she was, Clara. His little Clara, nestled under a colorful patchwork quilt, a teddy bear clutched against her chest. Her golden curls spread across the pillow, and an innocent smile played on her lips as she slept. An angel of peace amidst the chaos. 7 years of pain dissolved in that instant, replaced by an overwhelming wave of love and redemption. Warm tears rolled down Augusto's face, but he held them back, wiping them away quickly with the palm of his hand. He wanted to hug her, kiss her, tell her he would never leave her again, that everything would be all right. But danger still lurked, a dark breath downstairs. Donna Helena touched his arm, a warning look in her eyes. "We need to be quick, Augusto. He wakes early and he's a light sleeper." Augusto nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. He would enter the room, wake Clara as gently as possible, and they would leave through the back, using the passage in the fence he had already identified. He needed to be silent, fast, and invisible. The lives of his daughter and the elderly woman depended on it. That moment, just steps away from his daughter, was the sweetest and most terrifying of his life. He took a deep breath. Determination etched in every fiber of his being. He would not fail. The long-dreamed-of reunion was about to happen, but freedom was still a fragile promise, hanging by a thread of hope and courage. Augusto took a deep breath, the air feeling dense in his lungs. With a hesitant step, he entered Clara's room. The wooden floor creaked softly under his feet, a sound that seemed like thunder in his ears. The girl was so serene, so oblivious to the danger that surrounded them. He knelt beside the bed, his heart overflowing with a tenderness he thought he had lost forever. His fingers, accustomed to handling documents and contracts, trembled as he touched Clara's golden curls. They were soft, silky, exactly as he remembered. "Clara, my love," he whispered, his voice choked. "Daddy's here." Clara's little eyes opened slowly, blinking against the soft morning light. She gazed at him with a mix of curiosity and unfamiliarity. There was no immediate recognition, just the innocence of a child who had just woken up. Augusto felt a pang of pain. 7 years had stolen the memory of his face from his daughter's heart. Donna Helena, standing at the door, made a gesture of urgency. Time was crucial. Augusto smiled, a smile that tried to convey all the security and love he felt. "I'm your daddy, Clara. Remember Loki, the talking parrot?" Hearing Loki's name, a flash of recognition lit up Clara's eyes. A shy smile appeared on her lips. "Loki, ugly parrot," she murmured, her voice sleepy, but with a glimmer of remembrance. "Yes, my love, the ugly parrot who loves you very much," Augusto replied, his eyes welling up. He picked her up in his arms with the delicacy of someone holding a crystal. Clara, still a little confused, nestled into his chest, the familiar scent of a father she didn't know existed, but whom her heart seemed to recognize. "We need to go, Augusto," Donna Helena urged, her voice almost a whisper. "He's gonna wake up." Augusto nodded, adrenaline replacing emotion. He wrapped Clara in a blanket, ensuring she was warm and safe. "Let's play a silent game, Clara. Can you be a little ninja?" Clara, sensing the urgency in her father's voice, but trusting his embrace, nodded her head, her eyes wide and attentive. With Clara in his arms, Augusto descended the stairs with utmost caution, each step a challenge. Donna Helena followed closely, her eyes fixed on the guest room door. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the slight rustle of Clara's blanket and Donna Helena's heavy breathing. As they reached the kitchen, the smell of coffee still lingered in the air, a reminder of the normal life they were about to reclaim. The back door, through which Augusto had entered, was just a few steps away. He opened it slowly, the soft creak of the wood seeming deafening. The fresh morning air enveloped them. They stepped out into the garden, moving quickly towards the back fence. "This way, Donna Helena," Augusto indicated, opening the passage in the fence he had found earlier. He helped the elderly woman through, then Clara, who observed everything with childish curiosity, not understanding the gravity of the situation. Finally, they were off the property. Augusto ran with Clara in his arms, Donna Helena close behind, towards the car. With each step, he felt relief, but also the tension of knowing they weren't completely safe yet. As they reached the car, Augusto opened the back door and gently placed Clara on the seat. She looked at him, a genuine smile now on her face. "Daddy," she said, the words sounding like music to his ears. Donna Helena got into the passenger seat, exhausted, but with a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Augusto started the engine, and the car drove off, leaving behind the house that had been a prison of lies and pain. He knew the road ahead would be long, full of legal and emotional challenges, but with Clara and Donna Helena safe by his side, he felt an unshakable strength. Justice would be served, and the family, finally, would be reunited. The sun began to rise on the horizon, painting the sky with vibrant colors, promising a new day, a new and hopeful beginning. The sun, now higher, bathed the landscape in a soft, golden light, and Augusto felt each ray as a balm for his wounded soul. Clara, nestled in his arms in the back seat, had fallen asleep again, a peaceful and safe slumber. The light weight of her body against his was the sweetest proof that everything was real, that the 7 years of darkness had finally come to an end. He glanced at Donna Helena in the passenger seat, the elderly woman, her face marked by fatigue and tension, now allowed some silent tears to stream down her cheeks. She turned her head, and her eyes met Augusto's, a mix of relief and profound gratitude. "Thank you, Augusto," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Thank you for getting us out of there. I couldn't take it anymore." Augusto reached out and squeezed her hand affectionately. "You were very brave, Donna Helena. You protected Clara. And now we are together." He felt a wave of compassion for his mother-in-law, who had also been a victim of Sophia's web of lies and cruelty. The image of her shrinking in dread, the fear in her eyes, confirmed that she was not an accomplice, but a prisoner of love and threat. As he drove along the winding road, Augusto felt life pulsing again in his veins. The silence in the car was no longer one of mourning, but of rebirth. He looked in the rearview mirror, seeing Clara's angelic face. She was his reason, his purpose, the promise of a future he had never dared to dream of. Loki's words, "Your daughter, she's alive." Sophia lied, echoed in his mind like a hymn of liberation. That little parrot, his link to the truth, had unraveled a charade so cruel it seemed straight out of a nightmare. The anger at Sophia still burned in his chest, but now it was a controlled anger, channeled towards justice. There would be no more room for impunity. What Sophia had done was unforgivable, and she should face the consequences of her actions. He knew the legal path would be complex, but he had truth on his side, Donna Helena's testimony, and, peculiarly, Loki's intelligence. He would call his lawyer as soon as they reached a safe place, initiating all procedures to ensure Sophia paid for every day of pain she had caused them. Augusto already imagined Sophia's shock upon discovering that her castle of lies had crumbled. The fortune, the control, everything she coveted would be irremediably lost. More importantly, she would lose her freedom and dignity, something Augusto, in his pain, had never wished upon her, but which now revealed itself as the inevitable outcome of her own cruelty. He gripped the steering wheel, an iron determination in his gaze. That was the true climax of his journey, not just Clara's physical rescue, but the rescue of his own soul, the restoration of truth, and the promise of a new beginning. He drove towards the city, where justice awaited him, and where life, finally, could be rebuilt. With Clara safe and Donna Helena by his side, Augusto felt he had the strength to face any challenge. The family was, at last, reunited, and the future, though uncertain, was full of hope. He drove for hours until he reached his old country house, a discreet refuge Sophia knew nothing about. As he parked, relief flooded him. Clara, still asleep, was carefully carried to a cozy room. Donna Helena, exhausted, but with a renewed sparkle in her eyes, prepared some tea, her movements now lighter, free from the weight of fear. Augusto, as he watched her, felt profound gratitude. She had been the silent guardian, the bridge between him and his daughter. Once Clara was safe and Donna Helena was resting, Augusto picked up the phone. His lawyer, Dr. Medeiros' voice, sounded surprised by the early call. "Dr. Medeiros, I need your help. I found my daughter. Sophia kept her hidden for 7 years." The revelation was a shock to the lawyer, who promised to act immediately. Augusto detailed everything, from Loki's words to the rescue at the country house. The police were called, and an arrest warrant for Sophia would be issued in a matter of hours. As the wheels of justice began to turn, the news of Clara's discovery and Sophia's betrayal spread like wildfire. Sophia, in her mansion, was caught by surprise. The world she had built on lies and manipulation crumbled. The fortune she coveted, the power she wielded, all slipped away. Her image, once impeccable and controlling, transformed into despair and impotent fury. She tried to deny, to argue, but the evidence was irrefutable, and Donna Helena's testimony, combined with Loki's revelation, sealed her fate. Justice, slow but relentless, finally reached her. The next day, Clara woke up, and the country house was filled with the sound of her laughter. She was still a little confused, but Augusto's constant presence and Donna Helena's affection made her feel safe. Augusto, his heart overflowing, read stories to her, played hide-and-seek, and observed every gesture, every smile. He was rediscovering fatherhood, a gift he thought he had lost forever. Loki, the parrot, was brought to the country house. Upon seeing Clara, he flew to her, landing on her shoulder and repeating in his shrill voice, "Clara laughs. Daddy loves Clara." The girl giggled, hugging the parrot, and Augusto knew that the bond between them, though peculiar, was unbreakable. Donna Helena, free from Sophia's yoke, began to blossom. She prepared Clara's favorite dishes, told stories, and for the first time in years, slept a peaceful sleep. The guilt that tormented her dissipated, replaced by the joy of seeing her granddaughter and son-in-law together. The family, though small, was a refuge of love and hope. Augusto knew that Clara's emotional recovery would take time and that the legal battle against Sophia would be exhausting. But seeing his daughter's smile and the peace on Donna Helena's face, he felt an unshakable strength. Justice would be done, and they would build a future where love and truth would be the pillars. That was the true beginning, the promise of a full life, free from the shadows of the past for the family. The days at the country house became a balm for wounded souls. Clara blossomed, her eyes, once melancholic, now shone with contagious joy. Augusto observed every laugh, curious question, tight hug, feeling his heart expand with love he thought he had lost. He took her for walks through the fields, told stories, and taught her to draw, seeing in every stroke the purity of her soul. Donna Helena regained her vitality. Fear dissipated like mist in the sun. She spent mornings in the kitchen preparing treats for Clara, and afternoons in the garden tending to the flowers. Loki, the parrot, entertained everyone. He flew freely, landing on Clara's shoulders to repeat phrases or on Augusto's, as a guardian of the new peace. "Clara, happy daddy loves," he squawked, and the melody filled the house with joy. The legal process against Sophia advanced. Dr. Medeiros, with Donna Helena's testimony and Augusto's evidence, built an irrefutable case. Sophia, isolated and unmasked, faced the harsh reality. The coveted fortune was frozen, and the charges of kidnapping and fraud placed her before a grim future. Augusto felt no pleasure in her downfall, only the satisfaction of justice prevailing. He had recovered his daughter, that was all. The country house became a sanctuary of healing. Augusto dedicated himself entirely to Clara, helping her process the lost years, to understand a father's unconditional love. He knelt beside her bed every night, kissing her forehead and promising never to leave her again. Clara, with restored confidence, hugged him tightly, her small body conveying a sense of security that was his greatest gift. The community, upon learning of the story, offered warm support. Letters of affection arrived, celebrating the reunion and condemning Sophia's cruelty. Augusto, once isolated in pain, felt reconnected to the world and the kindness of people. He and Donna Helena began participating in support groups for families who had faced trauma, sharing their story as a beacon of hope. One day, Clara, sitting on Augusto's lap, looked at him with eyes full of light. "Daddy, we'll never be separated again, right?" she asked. Augusto hugged her tightly. "Never again, my love. We are a family, and families stick together no matter what." Loki, perched on Augusto's shoulder, flapped his wings and repeated with surprising clarity, "Family, love, forever." Augusto smiled, tears of happiness welling up. The dark past had been overcome by the strength of love and truth. The journey was painful. The reward was life, his daughter's laughter, the peace at home. He knew that challenges would still come, But with Clara and Donna Helena by his side, and Loki as a constant reminder that truth always finds its way, he was ready to build a future where love and justice would be the pillars of the family. The months that followed at the country house were a silent testament to the resilience of the human heart. Clara, with the innocence and adaptability of children, absorbed Augusto's and Donna Helena's love like a sponge. Her laughter filled the rooms, echoing the joy that once seemed impossible. Augusto dedicated every free moment to his daughter. They spent hours in the garden, planting colorful flowers, Clara with her small hands dirty with soil, learning about the cycle of life and the beauty of nature. He took her for picnics by the lake, where he told adventure stories and taught her to identify birds by their song. Every new piece of knowledge, every smile from Clara, was a gift that healed the wounds of 7 years of absence. Donna Helena, in turn, rediscovered the joy of living. The guilt that oppressed her had dissipated, replaced by gratitude and love for her granddaughter and son-in-law. She was the anchor of the house, preparing delicious meals that brought the family together at the table, sharing wisdom and affection in every gesture. Her eyes, once full of fear, now shone with a serenity that inspired everyone. Loki, the parrot, continued to be an essential part of the family. He flew freely around the house and garden, often landing on Clara's shoulder as she drew or played. His phrases, once a mystery, were now affectionate reminders of the truth he had revealed. "Clara, happy, Daddy loves," he squawked, and the melody of these simple words brought a special warmth to Augusto's heart. The legal process against Sophia reached its conclusion. Dr. Medeiros, with the solidity of the evidence and Donna Helena's moving testimony, ensured that justice was served. Sophia, confronted with the irrefutable truth and the loss of everything she coveted, faced the consequences of her choices. Augusto felt no triumph, but rather a profound sense of relief. That chapter of pain was finally closed, and peace, so hard won, could flourish unimpeded. He understood that the true victory was not in Sophia's punishment, but in the recovery of his daughter and the rebuilding of his own life. The community, which had followed the story with apprehension, celebrated the outcome with warmth and support. Augusto and Donna Helena, in an act of altruism, decided to share their experience, helping other families cope with grief and overcome trauma. They became a beacon of hope, showing that even in the darkest adversities, love and truth always find a way. A year passed since the reunion. The country house, once a temporary refuge, became the family's permanent home. Augusto and Clara, hand in hand, walked through the blooming garden. "Daddy, do you love me more than anything in the world?" Clara asked, her voice sweet. Augusto knelt, hugging her tightly. "More than the stars in the sky, my love. You are my brightest star." Loki, who watched them from a nearby branch, flapped his wings and repeated, with a clarity that seemed to carry all the wisdom of the world, "Love, family, forever." Augusto looked up at the blue sky, a serene smile on his lips. The pain of the past was now just a distant memory, a reminder of how much he had grown and the invaluable worth of family. He had learned that true love is unbreakable, that hope can rise from the ashes, and that human connection is the greatest treasure. With Clara in his arms, Donna Helena by his side, and Loki as the peculiar guardian of their story, Augusto knew they were ready for any future, building each day on the pillars of truth, forgiveness, and a love that transcends all barriers. Life in its fullness had finally returned.